Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today we're going to talk about Tesla earnings. So as you can see, the stock has declined after hours, and I want to talk about some of the things just looking at the investor presentation that we can note. As of right now, the stock did trade in a very tight range today, really hanging out between the 735 and 740 bracket, and today it has dropped after hours down to where it's sitting about $723 a share. This is after posting earnings pretty much in line with expectations on the revenue side, and they forecasted quite nicely. So again, you can see that the total revenue shot up to 10.39 billion for total, which did beat estimates of 10.28, as well as they posted adjusted profit of 93 cents a share compared to the expectation of 79 cents a share. This says 78. Most of what I've seen is 79, but it again was a healthy beat and great year-over-year numbers, which leads us to wonder, why is the stock trading down? Keep in mind when we're looking at these numbers, I do want to highlight one thing, that the PE ratio, the price to earnings ratio, the stock is still trading at $1,153 per share, or PE per share. So the reason why I want to highlight that is because this is a huge multiple. And again, I always get a lot of crap if we compare this to some of the other producers out there. Ford has a negative 38 multiple. And then there's also other companies in the space, which we can talk about, like CSIF, which they're not going to be good, although they are still trading a negative 477, although they haven't completed their merger, so they may not be the best example to utilize. The important thing to note is, yes, they are not just a car company, they are a solar company, they have a lot of other moving parts, but I still want to highlight just some of the items that are still ongoing for the company. So let's take a look at the investor presentation. So this is the investor presentation for Tesla. You can find it by typing into Google the earnings presentation for Tesla, and this should be one of the first options that come up. The only things that I am going to highlight are inclusive of this screen right here, as well as some information concerning their Bitcoin investment. One of the items I would highlight is, you can see from a automotive revenue perspective, they actually lost money, or they had declining revenue from last quarter. Again, Q4 tends to be the big delivery month. It's year end, so I understand that you may see decline there. The important thing to point at, though, is the massive growth, and they have it here, 75% from Q1 of 2020 to Q1 of 2021. This is awesome. One of the things that I want to highlight, though, is that we do have these regulatory credits which they are selling. So that being said, I do want to just highlight one item here, where, as you can see, if you do that 438, which is their net profit down below, you can see right here, net income attributable to common stockholders of 438 minus that 518, they actually were down or lost $80 million. So it's important to watch. The reason for that is because these regulatory credits are going to increasingly become less of a revenue opportunity for Tesla, and increasingly more of a revenue opportunity for some of their peers in Ford and GM in association with the auto industry. Again, overall, though, pretty strong numbers from a revenue perspective, which leads us to ask the question of, why is the stock dropping after hours? Again, I want to highlight that this company is trading at an obscene valuation, and it continuously gets pumped by a lot of the YouTube community as well as a lot of the investment community. Keep in mind that the stock is trading at a forward multiple of like 2025 earnings. So they will need to not only just grow at 50% this year, which is what they forecasted, but they're going to have to do that every single year, and they're going to have to make money along the way. So keep that in mind. One thing that is of particular note as we kind of go through this information is, I'm not going to necessarily go through all the deliveries and such, which again, very strong numbers. I didn't see any issues there, but I did want to highlight some of the items on their statement of cash flows. So again, I'm scrolling through very quickly on this information, but I want to talk about some of their statement of operations, and in particular their statement of cash flows. So there is some key items that we want to look at when a company reports earnings. We've looked at their revenues and their profitability. We've also looked at their expected growth potential, because they do continue or expect to continue to provide a significant amount of vehicles over the coming year of 2021. But the important thing to note here is that Tesla made headlines this past year when they announced that they had made a huge purchase in Bitcoin. And I just want to highlight that some of the information you see in here that we generally don't see is going to be digital assets. You can see right here the proceeds from sales of digital assets as well as the purchases of digital assets. The reason why that's important, or the reason why I want to highlight that, is because they made headlines when they purchased Bitcoin, but then they actually went on to sell Bitcoin. So this is pretty impressive, and we're not going to be able to look at the numbers right here, but they did actually purchase, or they walked away with more than 100 million, right at $101 million in profit from holding that Bitcoin investment. And I think that that's important to note because whereas they lost $80 million non-inclusive of the regulatory credits, what you see on this screen from the $100 million gain that's not presented here is this is purely not revenue minus expenses. This is all on the balance sheet or the statement of cash flows, which means that they are doing this kind of behind the scenes. It's not something that the company is actually producing, but rather they are trading, doing treasury management. Now, the important thing to note is that they kind of bought low, sold high, which is great. I'm interested to see if they continue with some of their plans to purchase or sell Bitcoin going forward. So these are just some of the items that we'll be watching, and I am interested to see what they do going forward, having looked at this statement of cash flows here and now. So if you have any questions down below, whether it's on Tesla valuations, again, I'm a balance sheet person, feel free to drop that in the comments below, or you feel free to check out the Discord in the description down below. If you find this content helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Thanks. Talk to you later.